going to run through how we process our wax after we do our honey harvest. A lot of times the cappings will have a lot of honey in it, and I will put that in a cappings spinner bag and put that into my honey extractor. And I've shown that in one of my previous harvesting videos. What we get out is some honey that's kind of wet, so we put that in our solar wax melter, a little paper towel to filter through. I think I've shown that in a previous video as well. Once that comes out, we put it into, this is just a little fondue pot. Again, this is all small scale, just backyard level. I put it in there, I melt it until it's all liquidy. I don't put it on too high. I typically try it to go over the middle of 3 so that you're not darkening the wax. And if there's any honey in there, it'll go to the bottom and the wax will go to the top. And then what I do is I have a little Pyrex container here, and I put a rubber band around it and filter through here. This is the H700 cloth, similar to the small, it's actually the same thing as the small high beetle towels that you can get from other beekeeping dealers and stuff. But I'll filter through that. Sometimes it takes a little while, and sometimes those get plugged up, but a lot of times we'll end up with something that looks like this when you're done. Most of it goes through, and then if this starts getting dried out too quickly, then I just keep swapping. So I've got a few of these, and then as you get down to the bottom, that's when you'll start getting a lot of the debris. These can also be, the wax can be recovered from this too. I'll mention that in a moment. So once it's poured into there, I'll pour it out into blocks. So I'll either have ounces or I'll have the 1 pound blocks. This can only hold about 1 pound of beeswax though. So once it goes into there, then each of these molds that you buy, they'll tell you how much wax you need. And I usually typically put in a permanent marker on the bottom how much it needs. And then I'll we'll fill this with water and use it as a double boiler at that point, and put our clean wax in there. Then I'll be able to pour from the Pyrex container. When you lift this out, you just need to make sure you wipe off all the water so it doesn't drip into your forms. And I'll pour it into my molds. So we've got a skep, a turkey, and a Christmas tree. That's what they look like when they're done. I do find that if you space, I was using just extra long bobby pins to center the wick, but if you hold it up from the mold a little bit, it'll cool around the edges first and it'll cool around the wick. So for the most part, it will lay flat because of that, except for in the center, and then you can heat that later. On that. But that's how we render our wax and how we end up selling it. And then these 1 ounce bars can also be used for lip balms and stuff as well. So, and then this is just parchment paper, and I recommend parchment paper on your countertop if you can, because if you get wax on it, you can easily just wrinkle the paper and it pops right off. But if you get it on your countertop, it's really hard to get off. But I just made a little, square parchment paper thing, and I'll put that in the same fondue pot when there's nothing in it, and put that on the bottom, and then I can rub the bottom of the candles on that hot surface, and it'll level out the bottom so that they don't rock at all. And then as far as rendering this out, so this is something I learned from Philip at RTX Honeybees. If you get all these, and what I will do is I will empty this out. I'll have it filled with clean water, and then I'll put this in there. And these are all just those filtering things. There's a little bit of wax in there. And then I have some measuring spoons that actually have magnets in them. And I just use that as a weight. And then that will push that down to the bottom here. And then any of the wax, as it warms up, it'll liquefy and it'll float to the surface. And then you just shut it off and let it cool, and there'll be a little cake on the top. Now sometimes that would have to be poured through a filter again, but you can recover quite a bit since you have to use several of these to kind of filter it to this level. I also mentioned that this is a 2-cup Pyrex, and you can't quite get a pound in there. It's really close, but that's why these have 2 layers to them. So I ended up buying a 4-cup Pyrex bowl, and that's about 15 ounces in there right now, so I can easily get a pound in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and melt these down and re-pour those so we can enter them in a our local club's honey wax competition. Last year we entered and we were able to get first place on those. And we also got first place with this candle. I may try to do a different candle. It was not this candle in particular, it was our wax from last year with that mold. I think we're gonna try to use that mold next year, or this year, for the competition. These are 15 a piece. Can't recall what we sell these for offhand, but a lot of times we'll put those in a gift box that has 3 lip balms. It'll have that candle, it will have a honey dipper, and it'll have our honey. And we typically sell those for about $25 a piece. If there's any questions about our setup, just comment below and I'll try to answer those. Thank you.